The rain fell in sheets across Seoul's Gangnam district, turning the streets into rivers of neon light. Dr. Kang Yuna stood at the window of her cramped apartment, watching the city blur into watercolor streaks. Her phone buzzed again, the seventh call from Seonghwa Medical Center in the past hour. She didn't answer. She knew what they wanted, and she wasn't ready to give it to them. 3 days ago, she had been their golden child. The youngest trauma surgeon to ever operate solo at South Korea's most prestigious private hospital network. The daughter they never knew they had. The future they had carefully designed. Then she had opened the wrong file. Now, as she stared at her reflection in the rain-streaked glass, Yuna wondered if ignorance had been a kind of mercy. The face looking back at her was still her own. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that had seen too many surgeries go wrong, lips pressed into a line that suggested she rarely smiled. But behind that face, everything had shifted. The foundation of her entire existence had developed cracks she couldn't ignore. Her apartment was small but meticulously organized, medical journals stacked in perfect columns, surgical manuals arranged by color, a life built on order, on knowing, on certainty. That certainty was now shattered. The file had been misfiled, or so it seemed. An old manila folder in the hospital's basement archive, tucked between patient records from 2003. She had been looking for something mundane, transfusion protocols for a presentation. Instead, she found a name written in bold black ink across the tab, Choi Jae-won. The name meant nothing to her then. It meant everything now. Inside the folder were photographs. Not medical images, but surveillance photos. Street corners, restaurant interiors, the front steps of what looked like a church. And in each photo, the same man. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a face that seemed carved from something harder than stone, but somehow still gentle. He wore expensive suits that didn't quite hide the violence in his posture. His eyes, even in grainy black and white, held a depth that made Yuna's breath catch. Beneath the photos were documents, financial transfers, property deeds, incorporation papers for Seonghwa Medical Center, dated 1999, and handwritten notes in Korean script so elegant it looked like calligraphy. He built it all for her. She destroyed it all for him. Yuna had spent 3 days trying to find out who Choi Ji-won was. The hospital's digital records contained nothing. The national database listed him as deceased, cause of death unspecified, date listed as October 15th, 2005. No family members, no known associates. Just a death certificate signed by Dr. Han Min-ho, who happened to be the current chairman of Seonghwa Medical Center's board of directors. She had asked her mentor, Dr. Kim Sora, about Choi Ji-won. The older woman's face had gone white. "Where did you hear that name?" Dr. Kim had whispered, her hand trembling as she set down her coffee cup. "I found a file, in the archives." "Burn it." "I'm a doctor, not an arsonist." Dr. Kim had leaned forward, her eyes desperate. "Yuna, listen to me. Some things are buried for a reason. That name is poison, and it kills everyone who speaks it too loudly." "Who was he?" "I can't tell you." "Can't or won't?" Dr. Kim had stood up then, gathering her things with shaking hands. "The difference doesn't matter if you're dead." Now, alone in her apartment with the rain hammering against the windows, Yuna opened her laptop. She had made copies of the file, digital scans stored in 3 separate encrypted locations. She was many things, but careless wasn't one of them. She pulled up the photographs again, studying Choi Ji-won's face. There was something familiar about him, though she was certain she had never seen him before. It wasn't his features exactly, but something in his expression. The way he looked at the camera like he knew it was there but didn't care. The quiet power in his stance. The suggestion of violence held in perfect check. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the hospital. It was a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging. Last warning." Yuna stared at the message for a long moment. Then she deleted it and pulled up the next document from the file. If they wanted to threaten her, they had already lost. She was a surgeon. She spent her days elbow deep in other people's bleeding. Threats were just another form of pressure, and pressure was something she knew how to work under. The document was a transcript. No date, no identifying information except two initials at the top: CJ and PH. The conversation was brief, but loaded with weight. You built this for her? I built this for everyone. She's just the reason I started. And if she doesn't want it? Then I'll burn it down myself. Yuna read the exchange 3 times, trying to decode its meaning. Who was she? What was this? The hospital? Something else? She clicked to the next scan. This one was a newspaper clipping, yellowed with age, dated September 2004. The headline read, "Rising star of Seoul's business elite dies in apparent suicide." The article described the death of Lee Mina, daughter of Lee Sang-woo, one of South Korea's most powerful prosecutors. She had jumped from her apartment balcony in Gangnam. No note was found. Friends described her as troubled but not suicidal. The case was closed within a week. There was a photograph accompanying the article. Lee Mina had been beautiful, elegant features, long dark hair, eyes that seemed to hold secrets even in death. She was wearing a white dress in the photo, standing in front of what looked like a hospital entrance. Seonghwa Medical Center, Yuna realized. The architecture was unmistakable. Beneath the newspaper clipping was a handwritten note on hospital stationery. She knew too much. He protected her until he couldn't. Some love stories end in blood. Yuna closed her laptop and pressed her palms against her eyes. This was insane. She was a doctor, not a detective. She saved lives. She didn't dig up dead ones. But something in those documents called to her. Some piece of herself she didn't understand yet. Her phone rang. This time she answered. "Dr. Kang." The voice was male, smooth, cultured. "My name is Han Minho. I believe we need to talk." Yuna's throat went dry. Dr. Han Minho, the chairman, the man who had signed Choi Ji-won's death certificate. "About what?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "About your future at Seonghwa. And about the past you've been investigating." "I don't know what you mean." "Dr. Kang, please. Let's not insult each other's intelligence. You found something in our archives. You've been asking questions. Questions that concern me greatly. Not because they're improper, but because they're dangerous. For you. Is that another threat?" "It's a warning. There's a difference." Han Minho's voice softened. "I was friends with your father, Yuna. He would want me to protect you." "My father died when I was 10. You didn't know him." "Didn't I?" There was something sad in his voice. "Come to my office tomorrow. 9 a.m. There are things you need to understand before you go any further down this path." "And if I refuse?" "Then you'll learn the truth the hard way. And the hard way, in this case, will destroy you." The line went dead. Yuna sat in the darkness of her apartment, listening to the rain, feeling the weight of something vast and terrible pressing down on her. She should stop. She should burn the files, forget the name, go back to her surgeries and her ordered life. But she knew she wouldn't. Couldn't. Because in one of those surveillance photos, in the background behind Choi Ji-won, there had been a woman. Just a blur, really. A figure in a white coat. Dark hair pulled back. And something about that blur, that ghost of a person, looked exactly like the photographs Yuna had of her own mother. Her mother, who had died giving birth to her. Her mother, whom her father never spoke about. Her mother, whose name was Park Hana. Park Hana. Yuna didn't sleep that night. The morning came gray and cold. The rain finally stopped, but the sky still threatening. Yuna dressed carefully. Black slacks, white blouse, her doctor's coat over it all. Armor in the form of professionalism. She took the subway to avoid her car being tracked, switched lines twice to check for followers, and arrived at Seonghwa Medical Center's administrative building at 8:55. The building was separate from the main hospital complex, a sleek tower of glass and steel that looked more like a tech company headquarters than a medical facility. Inside, everything was white marble and hushed efficiency. The receptionist greeted her by name before she could introduce herself. Dr. Kang, Chairman Han is expecting you, 32nd floor. The elevator is private. Yuna stepped into an elevator that opened directly at her approach. The ride up was silent and smooth. When the doors opened, she found herself in a reception area that looked like it belonged in a museum. Traditional Korean art on the walls, priceless ceramics in glass cases, furniture that probably cost more than her medical school tuition. Han Minho stood waiting for her. He was in his late 50s, silver-haired, with the kind of face that inspired trust. He wore a navy suit that fit him perfectly and smiled at her with what seemed like genuine warmth. Dr. Kang, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? We always have choices. It's the consequences that limit us. He gestured to a seating area. Please, coffee? Tea? Answers. Han Minho laughed, a soft sound that held no humor. Direct, just like your mother. Yuna's heart seized. You knew her. I knew them both, your mother and Choi Ji-won. I was there when they met. I was there when everything fell apart. He sat down, suddenly looking much older than his years. I've spent 20 years trying to bury the past, but the past, it seems, has other ideas. Tell me who he was. A monster, according to some. A saint, according to others. The truth, as always, is more complicated. Han Minho poured himself tea with steady hands. Choi Ji-won was the most powerful man in Seoul's underworld. Not a gangster in the traditional sense. He was something worse. He was legitimate. What does that mean? It means he controlled the real power. Politicians, prosecutors, judges, media. He didn't break the law. He wrote it. He didn't fight in the streets. He bought the streets. And he did it all while maintaining the appearance of a successful businessman. The public knew him as a philanthropist, a hospital benefactor, a man who donated millions to charity. Han Minho's eyes went distant. Only a few of us knew what he really was. And what was that? A king without a kingdom, trying to build one that couldn't be taken away. Yuna leaned forward. Why a hospital? Because hospitals hold power that doesn't look like power. Who lives? Who dies? Whose records get altered? Whose test results disappear? Whose organs get priority? Your mother understood this before anyone else. She was a doctor, like you. Brilliant. Principled. She wanted to build something good. Ji-won wanted to build something untouchable. Together, they created Seonghwa. And then? Han Minho's face darkened. Then they fell in love. And love, Dr. Kang, is the most dangerous weapon in the world. He stood and walked to the window. Looking out over Seoul, Ji-won was already married when he met your mother. Not a love match, a political alliance. His wife was the daughter of a powerful prosecutor. The marriage gave Ji-won protection, legitimacy, but there was no passion in it. No real connection. Then Park Hana walked into his life, and everything he had built started to crack. My mother was the other woman? Yuna's voice was flat. Your mother was the only woman, at least for him. She didn't know about his wife at first. When she found out, she tried to leave. But by then, it was too late. They were already bound to each other in ways that couldn't be undone. Han Minho turned back to her. Do you believe in fate, Dr. Kang? I believe in biology and physics. Then let me put it in terms you'll understand. Some people's chemistry is explosive. Your parents were like plutonium meeting uranium, individually powerful, together, apocalyptic. So what happened? What always happens when two unstoppable forces collide. Han Minho returned to his seat. Jiwon's wife found out about the affair. She wasn't just angry, she was vengeful. She went to her father, prosecutor Lee Sang-woo, one of the most powerful men in Korea. A man who had been looking for a way to destroy Jiwon for years. Yuna remembered the newspaper clipping. Lee Sang-woo. His daughter died. Lee Mina. Han Minho's face went carefully blank. You've been thorough. What happened to her? That depends on who you ask. The official story is suicide, depression, personal troubles. But there are other stories. Stories about what she knew. Stories about what she saw. Stories about why she really died. He met Yuna's eyes. I don't know which story is true. I'm not sure anyone does anymore. But you have a theory. I have questions. Like, why did she die 3 weeks after threatening to expose her father's connection to organized crime? Like, why were all her files at the prosecutor's office destroyed? Like, why did Choi Ji-won disappear exactly 1 week after her death? Han Minho's voice dropped. Like, why did your mother go into hiding immediately after? Yuna felt her world tilting. What are you saying? I'm saying that the official story is missing pieces. I'm saying that what happened in 2004 and 2005 changed everything. The power structure of this city, the control of this hospital, the fate of everyone involved. He leaned forward. Including you. I wasn't even born yet. Exactly. Han Minho's eyes held hers. Your mother went into hiding in late 2004. She was pregnant. Your father, the man who raised you, Dr. Kang Seung-ho, wasn't your biological father. He was a good man who loved your mother enough to protect her secret, to give you his name, to die, never telling you the truth. The room spun. Yuna gripped the arms of her chair. You're lying. I wish I was. But the timing doesn't lie. The blood types don't lie. The documents I have, the real documents, not the ones you found, they don't lie. Han Minho pulled a folder from his desk drawer. Your mother died in childbirth. Hemorrhage. It happens. But there are those who say it wasn't an accident, that someone wanted her silenced, that someone feared what she might tell you when you were old enough to understand. Who? Yuna's voice was barely a whisper. That's the question that's haunted me for 20 years. Han Minho opened the folder and slid it across the table. Because the man who delivered you, who signed your mother's death certificate, who made sure you were placed with Dr. Kang Seung-ho, that man was me. And I've spent 2 decades wondering if I saved you or just prolonged your execution. Yuna looked down at the folder. Inside were birth certificates, genetic test results, photographs. And there, in black and white, was the truth she had both feared and expected. Choi Ji-won was her biological father. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Because you were going to find out anyway. And because there are people in this city who would rather you didn't. People who benefit from the current order. People who remember what Ji-won almost accomplished. People who fear what you might become. Han Minho stood. You have a choice, Dr. Kang. You can walk away. Burn those files. Forget that name. Live your life. Or you can dig deeper. Learn the whole truth. But understand. The truth is not clean. It's not simple. And it will change everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. What's the truth? That's what you have to decide. Because everyone who was there has a different version. Your father's widow says he was a monster who deserved to die. The men who worked for him say he was a hero who was betrayed. The prosecutors say he was a criminal who escaped justice. Yet your mother's friends say he was a man who loved too much and lost everything. Han Minho walked to the door. I say he was all of those things and none of them. Just like your mother. Just like all of us. Where is he now? Dead, according to the official records. Gone, according to everyone else. Han Minho paused at the door. But sometimes I wonder, because the body was never found. And men like Choi Ji-won don't die easily. He left her alone in the office, surrounded by priceless art and expensive silence. Yuna sat there for a long time, staring at the folder in her hands, feeling the weight of a past she had never known pressing down on her. Finally, she stood. She had surgeries scheduled, lives to save, a future to maintain. But as she rode the elevator down, she knew that nothing would ever be the same. And the world she had lived in was a lie. The question now was, what was the truth? And more importantly, was she brave enough to find it? The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of surgery and research. Yuna operated during the day, saving lives with hands that never trembled. At night, she dug through the past, piecing together a story from fragments and whispers. She found people who had known Choi Ji-won. Not many. Most were dead, or disappeared, or too afraid to talk. But there were a few. Old men in quiet bars, former nurses who had worked at the hospital in its early days, a prosecutor who had retired and now spent his days feeding pigeons in the park. Each of them told her a different story. Each story contradicted the last. But slowly, a picture began to emerge. Choi Ji-won had been born poor in Busan, the son of a fisherman who drank and a mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them fed. He was smart, too smart for the life he was born into. By 15, he was running numbers for local gangs. By 20, he was running the gangs themselves. By 25, he had moved to Seoul and started building something different. He wasn't like the others, one old gangster told her, his hands shaking as he poured soju into small glasses. The others, they loved the violence, loved the fear. Ji-won, he hated it. He used it, but he hated it. He wanted something cleaner, something that would last. So he built a hospital? He built an empire. The hospital was just the center. The old man drank his shot in one swallow. He bought judges. He owned prosecutors. He controlled the flow of money and medicine and information, but he did it quietly. No bodies in the street, no gang wars, just power, accumulating like snow, silent and inevitable. Why? That's the question, isn't it? The old man poured another shot. Some said he wanted legitimacy, wanted to be respected, not feared. Some said he wanted to protect his mother. She died of cancer because she couldn't afford treatment. Some said he just wanted to prove he was smarter than everyone else. He looked at Yuna with eyes that had seen too much. I think he was lonely, and lonely men build monuments to try and fill the void. Yuna learned that Choi Ji-won had married Kim Yuri in 2001. It was a political marriage. Her father was prosecutor Lee Sang-woo, a man who controlled the criminal justice system in Seoul. The marriage gave Ji-won protection and legitimacy. In exchange, he gave Lee Sang-woo access to his network, his money, his power. It was a business arrangement, a retired prosecutor told her. Nothing more. Yuri knew it. Ji-won knew it. They lived separate lives. She had her affairs. He had his work. It was functional, if not happy. Then my mother came along. The prosecutor's face softened. Park Hana was different. She was fire where Yuri was ice. She challenged Ji-won in ways no one else ever had. She saw through him, saw the violence he tried to hide, the manipulation, the darkness. And she stayed anyway. Not because she was weak, but because she understood that darkness doesn't make someone evil. It just makes them dangerous. Did she love him? She destroyed herself for him. You tell me. Yuna tracked down a woman named Min Ji-soo, who had been Park Hana's best friend in medical school. They met in a coffee shop in Hongdae, the kind of place where students pretended to study while actually scrolling through their phones. Min Ji-soo was in her 50s now, a successful dermatologist with tired eyes. She ordered chamomile tea and studied Yuna's face for a long moment before speaking. You look like her. Around the eyes. Tell me about her. What's there to tell? She was brilliant, ambitious. She wanted to change medicine, make it accessible to everyone. She believed in systems, in reform, in working within institutions to create change. Minjisu stirred her tea slowly. Then she met him, and all her ideals crashed against the reality of power. When did they meet? Fall of 2002. She was doing her residency at Seoul National Hospital. He came in after a car accident. Nothing serious, just a concussion and some bruises. But he stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Later, I found out it was because he wanted to see her. He sent her flowers every day. Not roses, orchids. Rare ones. Each one more expensive than the last. And she fell for that? Minjisu laughed bitterly. She threw them away. Every single one. Told him she wasn't interested in gangsters pretending to be businessmen. You know what he did? He stopped sending flowers. Instead, he donated 10 million won to the hospital's pediatric cancer ward. In her name. The next day, 20 million to the trauma center. Then 50 million to research. Within a week, he had given away 200 million won. All in her name. All to causes she cared about. That's manipulation. Of course it is. Jiwon didn't seduce women with romance. He seduced them with power, with possibility. But he showed Hana that she could save more lives with his money than she ever could with her own hands. And he was right. Minjisu's eyes went distant. That's what made it so dangerous. He didn't lie to her. He just showed her a version of the truth that made his darkness look like light. When did she find out about his wife? 6 months in. They were already in love by then. The kind of love that makes you stupid, makes you cruel, makes you willing to burn the world just to stay warm. Minjisu set down her teacup. Hana tried to end it. She really did. She told him she wouldn't be the other woman, wouldn't destroy a marriage, wouldn't become the villain in someone else's story. You know what he said? What? He said, then I'll burn my marriage down and meet you in the ashes. Yuna felt something cold settle in her stomach. Did he? He tried. He went to his wife, told her he wanted a divorce, offered her anything, money, properties, connections. She refused. Not because she loved him, but because divorce would mean losing face, losing status. Her father, Prosecutor Lee, he wouldn't allow it. A divorce would suggest weakness, would give Jiwon's enemies ammunition, would break the alliance that kept them both powerful. So Jiwon was trapped. We're all trapped by the structures we build. The question is whether we fight the cage or accept it. Minjisu leaned forward. Hana decided to fight. She threatened to go public, to tell everyone about the marriage, the corruption, the hospital's real purpose. She thought if she exposed everything, it would force Jiwon to choose. To finally be free. What happened? Lee Mina happened. The name hung in the air between them. Minjisu's face went carefully neutral. Yuri's sister, the prosecutor's younger daughter. Beautiful, ambitious, engaged to some chaebol heir. She was obsessed with her family's reputation. When she found out about Hana and Jiwon, she went nuclear. Started gathering evidence, documenting everything. She was going to expose it all. The affair, the corruption, the whole rotten system. Then she died. Then she fell. Minjisu's voice was flat. Or jumped. Or was pushed. Take your pick. The official story is suicide, depression, wedding stress. But Mina wasn't depressed. She was angry. And angry people don't kill themselves. They kill others. Do you think someone murdered her? I think that when powerful people's secrets are threatened, people die. I think Mina knew too much. I think she threatened the wrong people. And I think her death was convenient for a lot of people who weren't sorry to see her gone. Including Jiwon? Min-ji-soo met her eyes. That's the question everyone asked. Did Choi Jiwon kill Lee Mina to protect himself? To protect Hana? Or was it someone else who wanted them both destroyed? There were 5 people at Mina's apartment the night she died. Only one of them is still alive to tell the story. Who? Han Min-ho, your chairman. The man who's been protecting you all these years. Or watching you. Depending on how you interpret his motives. Yuna felt her chest tighten. What are you saying? I'm saying that everyone who knows the truth has a reason to lie. Han Min-ho says Jiwon wasn't there. Prosecutor Lee says Jiwon pushed Mina himself. Yuri says Jiwon confessed to her before he disappeared. And your mother, who was there, who saw everything, she took her version to the grave. Min-ji-soo stood up. So now you have to decide. Who do you believe? Who do you trust? Who's telling the truth, and who's writing history to absolve themselves? She left Yuna sitting alone in the coffee shop, surrounded by students and noise, and the suffocating weight of the past. That night, Yuna broke into the hospital's restricted archives. She had security clearance, but not for this section. The sealed records, the files that were never digitized, the documents that officially didn't exist. She found them in a locked room in the basement, rows of filing cabinets, each one containing histories that someone wanted forgotten. It took her 2 hours to find the right cabinet, another hour to pick the lock with tools she had bought from a hardware store and learned to use from YouTube videos. Inside, she found patient files from 2004 and 2005. Most were routine, but there were a few that weren't. Files with no patient names, just numbers. Files with sections redacted in black marker. Files that described treatments for injuries that suggested violence. File 9847. Multiple contusions, broken ribs, internal bleeding. Patient admitted October 8, 2004. Discharged October 12, 2004. Attending physician, Dr. Park Hana, file 9848. Gunshot wound, left shoulder. Patient admitted October 10, 2004. Surgery performed October 11, 2004. Attending surgeon, Dr. Park Hana, recovered fully, discharged October 15, 2004, file 9851, blunt force trauma, head injury, patient admitted October 12, 2004, critical condition, Dr. Park Hana called in for emergency consultation, patient died October 13, 2004, cause of death, brain hemorrhage, body cremated per family request, no autopsy performed. Yuna photographed every page, her hands steady despite her racing heart. She was about to leave when she noticed another cabinet in the corner, smaller than the others, unmarked. She checked her watch. 3 a.m. The cleaning staff would arrive in 2 hours. She picked this lock too. Inside was a single folder, thick, worn, the edges yellowed with age. The label read, Choi Jiwon Personal. Yuna opened it with hands that wanted to shake but wouldn't. Inside were documents that painted a picture of a man she was only beginning to understand. Financial records showing that Choi Jiwon had funded not just Seonghwa Medical Center, but 17 other hospitals across Korea. Free clinics in poor neighborhoods, cancer treatment centers, pediatric research facilities, all funded through shell companies and anonymous donations, billions of won, given away without credit or recognition. Letters from patients whose lives had been saved by Jiwon's money, children who received heart transplants, mothers who got cancer treatment, fathers who had surgeries they could never afford. Hundreds of letters, all thanking an anonymous benefactor who never responded. And at the bottom of the folder, a series of photographs. Not surveillance photos, personal ones. Choi Jiwon and Park Hana, captured in moments they thought were private, walking on a beach, sitting in a cafe, standing on a rooftop, looking out over Seoul, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. In every photo they looked happy. Not the desperate happiness of an affair, but the quiet contentment of two people who had found something rare. The last photograph was different. It showed Hana, visibly pregnant, sitting in what looked like a medical examination room. She was smiling, her hand resting on her belly. Standing behind her, his hand on her shoulder, was Jiwon. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at her. And the expression on his face was so full of love and fear and hope that it hurt to see. Someone had written on the back of the photo in elegant script, 3 weeks before everything ended. Yuna slipped the photograph into her pocket. She knew she shouldn't. Knew it was evidence. Knew it was theft. Knew it would be missed. But she needed it. Needed proof that her parents had been real people, not just cautionary tales. Needed something to hold on to that wasn't corruption or death or lies. She locked the cabinet and left the archive as if she had never been there. As she walked through the empty hospital halls, she felt eyes on her. The security cameras tracked her movements. Someone, somewhere, was watching. Someone always was. When she got home, she found another message waiting on her phone. "You look like your mother when you're breaking the rules." Yuna stared at the message for a long time, and then she typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. Someone who knew them both. Someone who was there. Someone who can tell you what really happened, if you're brave enough to hear it. Where? Namsan Tower. Observation deck? Tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. Bring the photograph. Yuna knew it was a trap. She went anyway. The night was cold. The kind of cold that made breath visible and fingers numb. Yuna took the cable car up Namsan Mountain, watching Seoul spread out below her in a grid of lights. At the top, the observation deck was nearly empty. Just a few tourists taking selfies and a security guard who looked half asleep. She waited by the windows, staring out at the city. Midnight came and went. She was about to leave when a voice behind her said, "She stood in exactly that spot. The night before Mina died." Yuna turned. A man stood there, late 60s, dressed in an expensive coat that did nothing to hide his worn appearance. His face was deeply lined, his eyes haunted. But there was something familiar about him. "Who are you?" Yuna asked. "My name is Park Jinwoo. I was your grandfather, your mother's father." He smiled sadly. "The man who drove her away by trying to control her. The man who never met you, because pride matters more than family in this country. The man who spent 20 years drowning in regret." Yuna felt her throat close. "You're lying." "I wish I was." Park Jinwoo walked to the window beside her. "Hana was my only child. Brilliant, stubborn, idealistic to the point of stupidity. I wanted her to marry well, practice medicine in a respectable hospital, have a conventional life. She wanted to change the world. We fought constantly. When she started the affair with Jiwon, I disowned her. Told her she was dead to me. Meant every word." His voice cracked. "Then she actually died, and I learned what it really means to lose someone. Why are you here? Because you deserve to know the truth. The real truth. Not the sanitized version everyone else is feeding you. Not the story that makes them look innocent. Not the narrative that absolves their guilt." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "I was there the night Mina died. I saw everything. And I've kept silent for 20 years because speaking up would have gotten me killed. But I'm dying now. Cancer. Stage 4. Maybe 3 months left. What can they do to me that death won't?" "What did you see?" Park Jinwoo handed her the envelope. "Read this first. Then decide if you want to hear the rest." Inside were medical records, Lee Mina's medical records from a private clinic Yuna had never heard of. Dated October 11th, 2004, 2 days before Mina died. Pregnancy test, positive. 8 weeks. Yuna looked up. She was pregnant? By her fiancé. At least, that's what everyone assumed. But Mina was terrified. Not because of the pregnancy itself, but because of what it meant. She kept saying she had to tell the truth. That she couldn't live with the lies anymore. That someone had to know what she knew. Park Jin-woo's face was grim. She died before she could tell anyone. What did she know? That prosecutor Lee Sang-woo, her father, wasn't just protecting the legal system, he was running it. That he had been taking money from organized crime families for years. That he had built his entire career on the backs of the people he was supposed to prosecute, and that Choi Ji-won had evidence, documents, recordings, photographs, everything needed to destroy Lee Sang-woo's empire. Yuna's mind raced. Ji-won was blackmailing him? No. Ji-won was protecting himself. He knew that, as long as he had that evidence, Lee Sang-woo couldn't move against him directly. It was mutually assured destruction. You keep your secrets. I keep mine. We maintain the system together because bringing it down would destroy us both. Park Jin-woo turned away from the window. But then Hana and Ji-won fell in love. And love makes people do stupid things. Like want to be free. Like want to live honestly. Like want to burn down the entire corrupt system just to be together. So Ji-won threatened to release the evidence? Worse. He told Lee Sang-woo he was going to divorce Yuri, leave the criminal world entirely, and start fresh with Hana. He was willing to give up everything, his power, his money, his empire, all of it, just to be with her. Park Jin-woo's voice was bitter. Do you understand what that meant? It meant Lee Sang-woo would lose his protection, would be vulnerable, would face prosecution himself. It meant the entire structure they had built would collapse, and Lee Sang-woo couldn't allow that. So he killed Mina? His own daughter? That's one theory. The one Ji-won believed. The one that made him disappear. Park Jin-woo looked at her directly. But there are other theories. Theories that make everyone guilty. Theories that make everyone innocent. Theories that depend on which side of the story you stand on. Tell me all of them. Park Jin-woo pulled out a cigarette, looked at the no-smoking sign, lit it anyway. Theory 1. Lee Sang-woo killed Mina because she was going to expose him. Pushed her off the balcony and made it look like suicide. Ji-won found out, went to confront him, and disappeared in the chaos. This is what Ji-won's loyalists believe. It makes Lee Sang-woo the villain and Ji-won the tragic hero. He took a long drag, exhaled smoke into the cold night air. Theory 2. Ji-won killed Mina because she was threatening to expose his affair to the press, which would have destroyed everything he and Lee Sang-woo had built. He panicked, pushed her, then fled when he realized what he'd done. Lee Sang-woo covered it up to protect his family's reputation. This is what the prosecutors believe. It makes Ji-won the monster and Lee Sang-woo the grieving father. Theory 3? Yuna asked. Theory 3 is the darkest. In this version, they both wanted Mina dead. Lee Sang-woo because she threatened his empire. Ji-won because she threatened his relationship. They worked together, made it look like suicide, then turned on each other afterward because neither could stand the guilt. This is what I believe. It makes everyone evil. And Theory 4? Park Jin-woo smiled sadly. Theory 4 is that Mina really did commit suicide. That the pressure of keeping secrets, of watching her father and brother-in-law destroy each other, of being pregnant and scared and alone, it was too much. She jumped. No one pushed her. No conspiracy. Just human fragility. This is what Yuri believes. And it makes Mina the victim and everyone else just witnesses to tragedy. Which one is true? That's the question that's haunted me for 20 years. Because I was there. I was in the apartment building. I heard the argument. I heard her scream. And I saw someone leave. Just a shadow. Moving fast. Disappearing into the night. Was it Ji-won? Lee Sang-woo? Someone else? I don't know. By the time I got to her apartment, she was already on the ground. Already dead. Already a mystery that would never be solved. Why were you there? Because Hana asked me to come. She had received a message from Mina, begging to meet. Said she had something important to tell her. Something about Juwon. Hana was 8 months pregnant. Couldn't travel safely, so she sent me instead. I arrived 10 minutes too late. Park Jinwoo's voice broke. If I had been faster, if I had climbed the stairs instead of taking the elevator, if I had... You can't know that? No, but I can know what happened after. He dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his shoe. 3 days after Mina died, Jiwon came to Hana. He was different. Haunted, desperate, terrified. He told her she needed to leave Seoul immediately, that it wasn't safe for her or the baby, that powerful people wanted them both dead. Hana refused, said she wouldn't run, said she would face whatever came together. What did Jiwon do? He made a choice, the same choice every man makes when he loves someone more than himself. He left, disappeared into the night, left her a letter that I read only after she died, a letter I've memorized because it explains everything and nothing. Park Jinwoo recited from memory, "If I stay, they'll kill you to punish me. If I leave, maybe they'll let you live. I can't protect you from the consequences of loving me, so I'll protect you by becoming a ghost. Remember me however you need to. I'll remember you however I can. Forgive me for choosing your life over our happiness." Yuna felt tears burning in her eyes. She never forgave him, did she? She never got the chance. She went into labor 2 weeks later. There were complications. Hemorrhaging, blood pressure, something wrong with the placenta. I rushed her to Seonghwa. Han Minho performed the emergency C-section, delivered you healthy and perfect. But Hana, she was bleeding out. And in those final moments, as her life drained away, she grabbed Han Minho's hand and made him promise. Promise to protect you. Promise to give you to a good family. Promise to never let them find you. Who was them? That's the question. Was she afraid of Lee Sang-woo's revenge? Afraid of Ji-won coming back? Afraid of the system they had all built together? We don't know. Han Minho placed you with Dr. Kang Seung-ho, a good man, a widower who wanted children but couldn't have them. You grew up safe, normal, loved. And Han Minho kept watch, always from a distance, making sure you stayed protected. Protected or controlled? Park Jin-woo smiled grimly. That's the question you need to ask him, because I don't trust anyone in this story. Not Han Minho, who benefits from keeping the past buried. Not Lee Sang-woo, who retired with full honors despite his corruption. Not Yuri, who now runs a charity foundation and pretends her past doesn't exist. And not Ji-won, wherever he is. Whatever he's become. Do you think he's still alive? I think men like Choi Ji-won don't die. They transform. They become something else. Shadows. Legends. Warnings. He looked at her intently. I think he's been watching you your whole life, watching from a distance, making sure you're safe, unable to approach because his very existence would put you in danger. I think that's his punishment. Not death, but perpetual absence. The knowledge that his daughter exists, but he can never know her. That's just speculation. Everything about this story is speculation. That's the point. The truth died with Hana. What's left is interpretation. Park Jin-woo reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. This is to a storage unit in Gangnam. Unit 247. Inside is everything I've kept from Hana's life. Her journals, her letters, her photographs. Things she wanted you to have, but I couldn't give you until you were ready. Maybe you're ready now. Maybe you never will be. But they're yours if you want them. Yuna took the key. Why now? Why not 10 years ago? Or 5? Because 10 years ago, you were too young. 5 years ago, you hadn't found Jiwon's file, but now you're asking questions. And questions attract attention. Dangerous attention. Park Jinwoo's face was grave. People are watching you, Yuna. People who remember what happened. People who know what you represent. People who understand that the daughter of Choi Ji-won and Park Hana could be either their greatest asset or their complete destruction. What do they want from me? That depends on who they are. Han Minho wants you compliant. Yuri wants you silent. Lee Sang-woo's son, who now runs his father's empire, wants you dead. And somewhere out there, if he's still alive, Jiwon wants you safe. Park Jinwoo turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, the photograph you took from the archive. Look at it carefully. Look at the background. There's someone else in that room. Someone whose face is blurred but whose presence matters. Someone who was there the day that photo was taken. Someone who knew about the pregnancy, about the love affair, about everything. Who? That's what you need to figure out. Park Jinwoo walked away, his footsteps echoing on the observation deck. And when you do, you'll understand why your mother was so afraid, why Jiwon disappeared, why this story has stayed buried for 20 years. Yuna watched him go, then pulled out the photograph. She had looked at it dozens of times, studying her parents' faces, cataloging their expressions, but she had never looked at the background. She looked now. Behind Hana, partially hidden by a cabinet, was a figure in a white coat. The image was blurred, out of focus, but Yuna could make out enough detail to see that the person was watching the camera, watching with an intensity that suggested they knew exactly what was being captured. And in their hand, barely visible, was what looked like a syringe. Yuna's blood ran cold. She pulled out her phone, zoomed in on the image as much as she could. The quality degraded, pixelating into abstract shapes. But there was something about the figure's posture, something familiar. She compared it to photographs she had of Seonghwa's staff from that era. Found a match in 3 minutes. Dr. Kim Sora, her mentor. The woman who had warned her to burn the files. The woman who had been there from the beginning. Yuna left Namsan Tower at a run. The storage unit was exactly where Park Jinwoo said it would be. Yuna arrived at dawn, exhausted and wired, her mind spinning with possibilities and terrors. The facility was the kind of anonymous concrete box that existed in every major city. Rows of orange doors, fluorescent lights, the smell of dust and abandonment. Unit 247 was in the back corner. She used the key. The lock clicked open, and she raised the door to reveal a space filled with boxes. 20 years of a life, carefully packed and labeled in her mother's handwriting. Yuna spent the next 6 hours going through everything. Medical journals with notes in the margins. Photograph albums showing a young Park Hana growing up, going to medical school, starting her residency. Letters from friends, if colleagues, mentors, bills and receipts and mundane evidence of a life lived. And then, in a box labeled Personal Do Not Open, she found the journals. 7 notebooks, filled with dense handwriting, dated from 2002 to 2005. Park Hana's private thoughts, never meant for anyone else's eyes. Yuna sat on the concrete floor and started reading. The early entries were mundane. Complaints about long shifts, difficult patients, hospital politics. Then, November 2002. A man came to the ER today. Car accident. Nothing serious. But his eyes. I've never seen eyes that held so much. Pain, intelligence, loneliness, danger. All of it in one look. He asked my name. I told him it was none of his business. He smiled like I had said exactly what he wanted to hear. December 2002. The donations keep coming. Cancer ward, trauma center, research labs, all in my name. All from an anonymous benefactor who isn't as anonymous as he thinks. I should report this. Should tell the board. February 2003. We met for coffee. Just to talk, I told myself. Just to discuss the donations, to understand his motivations. We talked for 4 hours. About medicine, about power, about the ways systems fail the people they're supposed to serve. He sees the world clearly, without illusions. It's refreshing and terrifying. I think I'm in trouble. May 2003. I'm definitely in trouble. He kissed me today. In his car, after a hospital fundraiser. I should have pushed him away. Should have remembered my principles, my boundaries, my common sense. Instead, I kissed him back. And now I understand why people write songs about falling. Because that's what this is. Falling. And I have no idea where I'll land. August 2003. He told me about his wife, about the marriage that isn't really a marriage, about the deals and alliances that keep him trapped. I should end this. I know I should. But he looks at me like I'm the only real thing in his life, like everything else is performance and survival and strategy, like I'm the one place he can stop pretending. How do I walk away from that? How does anyone? Yuna read through the courtship, watching her mother fall deeper into a relationship that was clearly doomed from the start. But there was something in the entries that surprised her. Park Hana wasn't naive. She knew exactly what Choi Ji-won was. She knew about the criminal empire, the violence, the corruption. She knew and loved him anyway. October 2003. Sora warned me today. Said I'm playing with fire. Said Ji-won is dangerous. That men like him don't change. That I'll get burned. She's right about everything except one thing. I'm not trying to change him. I'm trying to build something good with someone who's done terrible things. Maybe that makes me complicit. Maybe that makes me a fool. But we're building the hospital. We're creating something that will save lives. Isn't that redemption? Isn't that enough? February 2004. He asked me to marry him. I said yes before I remembered he's already married. We laughed. Then we cried. Then we made love like it was the last time we'd ever touch. I'm trapped between two truths. I love him completely, and our love is impossible. How do people live with contradictions like this? How do they survive? May 2004. I'm pregnant, 3 months. I haven't told him yet. I'm terrified. Terrified he'll be angry. Terrified he'll want me to end it. Terrified he'll choose his existing family over this new one. Terrified he'll choose me and destroy his empire in the process. Terrified. Just terrified. June 2004. I told him. He cried. I've never seen him cry before. He held my hand and said, "We'll figure this out. I'll find a way. I promise." I want to believe him. I do believe him. But I also know that some promises can't be kept. Some ways forward don't exist. August 2004. Yuri knows. I don't know how, but she knows. She came to the hospital today. Calm, cold, controlled. She said, "You can have him, but you can't have the protection. You can't have the money. You can't have the name. You can have the man. He's stripped of everything that makes him powerful." Is he enough for you then? I said yes. She smiled and said, "We'll see." September 2004. Everything is falling apart. Mina is digging into Jiwon's business. Her father is making threats. The prosecutors are circling. Jiwon is getting desperate, making mistakes. He keeps saying we need to run, leave Seoul, start over somewhere else. But I can't abandon the hospital. Can't abandon my patients. Can't abandon the life I've built. And he can't abandon his empire without consequences. We're trapped. Both of us. Trapped by the things we love too much to leave. October 12th, 2004. Mina called me tonight. She was crying, hysterical. Said she needed to see me. Said she had information about her father. About Jiwon. about corruption at the highest levels. Said she was going to expose everything. Said someone needed to know the truth in case something happened to her. I can't travel. Too close to my due date. Father is going instead. I have a terrible feeling about this. A feeling that whatever happens tonight will change everything. October 13th, 2004. Mina is dead. Suicide, they say. But I don't believe it. I saw Jiwon tonight. He came to my apartment. Blood on his shirt. Terror in his eyes. He said we're not safe. Said powerful people want us dead. Said I need to leave Seoul immediately. I refused. I told him we'd face this together. He looked at me with so much love and so much despair. Then he left. Just walked out. Left a note that I can't bear to read yet. I think he's gone. I think I've lost him. I think everything we built is collapsing. And I can't even mourn because I have to protect this baby. Have to stay strong. Have to survive. October 20th, 2004. Sora came to see me today. She knows about Jiwon, knows about the baby, knows about everything. She held my hand and said, "I'll help you. Whatever you need." I asked her if she knew what happened to Mina. She looked away and said, "Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than lies. Sometimes surviving means accepting that you'll never know for certain." I don't know if that makes her wise or complicit. Maybe both. The entry stopped there. The next page was dated January 27th, 2005, the day Yuna was born. The day Park Hana died. But this entry was different. The handwriting was shaky, rushed, written by someone in pain or fear or both. If you're reading this, it means I'm dead. It means the complications were worse than expected. It means you're alive, and I'm not. I'm sorry, my darling daughter. Sorry I won't be there to watch you grow. Sorry your father and I loved each other in ways that made your existence dangerous. Sorry you're inheriting a legacy of corruption and violence and impossible choices. But here's what I want you to know. Your father is not a monster. He's a man who did terrible things for reasons that made sense to him. He built an empire on violence and called it protection. He manipulated people and called it strategy. He corrupted systems and called it survival. But he also loved me with a purity that almost redeemed him. Almost. I don't know if he killed Mina. I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. I don't know if he's a hero or a villain. But I know he loved me. And I know he'll love you, even from a distance. Even if he can never hold you. Even if his very existence puts you in danger. And if he's still alive, and I think he is, I feel it somehow. He's watching you. Protecting you the only way he can. By staying away. By being a ghost. By sacrificing his own happiness for your safety. Don't spend your life trying to find him. Don't waste your years seeking revenge or justice or closure. Live. Just live. Be a doctor. Save lives. Build something good. And if you ever have to choose between love and power, between truth and survival, between principle and pragmatism, choose love. Always choose love, because love is the only thing that matters in the end, the only thing that redeems us. The entry ended there. No signature, no final words, just an unfinished sentence, trailing off into silence. Yuna sat in the storage unit surrounded by the fragments of her mother's life, and cried for the first time since she had found that initial file, cried for the parents she never knew, cried for the love that destroyed them, cried for the impossible choices they had made, cried for herself, the daughter who inherited their mess without their wisdom. When she finally stopped, she noticed something tucked into the back of the journal, a photograph. Not the one she had stolen from the archive, but a different one. This one showed Choi Ji-won alone, sitting on a beach somewhere, looking out at the ocean. He looked peaceful, almost happy. like a man who had finally found a moment of rest in a life of constant motion. On the back, in Park Hana's handwriting, Jeju Island, summer 2004. The week we pretended we could be normal. Yuna pocketed the photograph and left the storage unit. She had read enough, learned enough. Now she needed to confront the one person who had been there from the beginning, the one person who knew the whole truth and had chosen silence. Dr. Kim Sora. She found her mentor in the hospital's surgical wing, scrubbing out after an 8-hour operation. Dr. Kim looked exhausted, her surgical cap leaving marks on her forehead, her eyes red-rimmed and tired. But when she saw Yuna, something in her expression shifted. Fear? Relief? Resignation? It was hard to say. "We need to talk," Yuna said. Dr. Kim nodded slowly. "I've been expecting this. Follow me." They went to Dr. Kim's office, a small space filled with medical texts and patient thank you cards and photographs of her family. Dr. Kim locked the door, closed the blinds, and sat down heavily. "Before you ask," she said, "I want you to know that I loved your mother. She was my best friend, my sister in everything but blood. What I did to protect you. Whether you believe that or not is up to you." "What did you do?" Dr. Kim's hands trembled as she poured tea from a thermos. "I was there the night Mina died. I was in the apartment. I saw everything." Yuna's heart hammered. "What did you see?" "I saw 3 people. Mina, Prosecutor Lee, and Choi Ji-won. They were arguing, screaming at each other. Mina had documents, evidence of her father's corruption. She was going to give them to the press. Expose everything. Ji-won was trying to stop her. Not because he cared about Lee Sang-woo, but because exposing the corruption would expose him too. Would destroy the hospital, would put Hana in danger. And Lee Sang-woo? He was begging his daughter to stop, telling her she didn't understand the consequences, that destroying him would destroy their entire family, that some truths are too dangerous to speak. But Mina wouldn't listen. She was crying, hysterical, saying she couldn't live with the lies anymore, saying she was going to tell everyone everything. "What happened then?" Dr. Kim's voice dropped to a whisper. Lee Sang-woo grabbed her, tried to take the documents. There was a struggle. Mina pulled away and... She stopped, swallowed hard. She backed up toward the balcony, still holding the documents, still screaming. And Lee Sang-woo, he looked at Ji-won, just looked at him. And Ji-won understood. Understood what needed to happen. What had to happen to keep everyone safe. Yuna felt sick. Ji-won pushed her. "No." Dr. Kim met her eyes. Ji-won tried to pull her back, reached for her hand. But Lee Sang-woo, he pushed Ji-won aside, grabbed his own daughter, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw him consider it. Saw him weigh his empire against his child. Saw him make the calculation. Her voice broke. Then he let her go, just opened his hands and let her stumble backward. She hit the balcony railing, lost her balance, and fell. Oh God. Ji-won tried to catch her, lunged forward, grabbed for her arm, but he was too late. She fell. And we all stood there, frozen, knowing that what had just happened would destroy everything. Dr. Kim wiped tears from her face. Lee Sang-woo left immediately, didn't say a word, just walked out like nothing had happened. Ji-won stood at the balcony, staring down, for what felt like hours. Then he looked at me and said, "Tell Hana I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. Tell her to run." Then he left too. And you. I called the police, reported it as a suicide, because that's what it looked like. And because saying anything else would have meant accusing a powerful prosecutor of killing his own daughter. Would have meant exposing Ji-won. Would have meant destroying Hana. So I lied. And I've been lying ever since. You let Lee Sang-woo get away with murder. I let everyone get away with murder. Because that's what survival looks like sometimes. Ugly, compromised, morally bankrupt. Dr. Kim stood up and walked to the window. 3 days later, I got a visit from Han Minho. He knew I had been there, knew what I saw. He offered me a choice: stay silent and keep my medical license, my career, my life, or speak up and face consequences that would destroy me and everyone I loved. He wasn't threatening me. He was just stating facts. And the facts were, the truth would kill more people than it would save. So you chose silence. I chose to honor your mother's final wish. When Hana was dying, bleeding out on the operating table, she grabbed my hand, made me promise to protect you, to never let them connect you to Jiwon, to help Han Minho place you somewhere safe. She said, "Sora, please, don't let my daughter inherit my mistakes. Let her be free." How could I say no to that? How could I choose abstract truth over her dying wish? Yuna felt everything she thought she knew fracturing. So Jiwon didn't kill Mina? No, but he didn't save her either. He stood there and watched her fall and did nothing to help afterward. Is that guilt? Innocence? Complicity? You tell me. I've spent 20 years trying to figure it out. Dr. Kim turned back to her. The truth is messy, Yuna. People are messy. Your father was a criminal who built hospitals. Your mother was a doctor who loved a monster. Lee Sang-woo was a father who killed his daughter to save his empire. I'm a doctor who covered up a crime to protect a friend. We're all compromised, all guilty, all trying to survive in a system that punishes honesty and rewards silence. Where is he? Where is Jiwon? I don't know. After Mina died, he disappeared. Some say he fled to China. Some say he's dead. Some say he's still here, in Seoul, watching from the shadows. I've received anonymous donations over the years. Money for my clinic, my research, my work. Always untraceable. Always exactly what I need. I think it's him, trying to atone. Trying to keep the good part of what he and Hana built alive. And Han Minho? What's his role in all this? Dr. Kim's face darkened. Han Minho is the true survivor. He was Jiwon's partner in building the hospital. Not an equal partner, more like a lieutenant. But when Jiwon disappeared, Han Minho stepped in, took control, made deals with Lee Sang-woo's family, convinced them that he could manage the hospital without the violence, without the risk, without Jiwon's volatility. He's been running everything ever since, clean, legitimate, profitable. And he's been watching me. Since the day you were born, making sure you stayed safe, making sure you never got too curious, making sure the past stayed buried. Dr. Kim walked back to her desk. But now you know. Now you have the truth. Or at least, a version of it. The question is, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. Then let me tell you what your mother would say. She would say, let it go. Forgive everyone. Live your life. Don't get consumed by a past you can't change. Dr. Kim's voice softened. But she would also say, if you can't let it go, then fight. But fight smart. Fight strategically. Don't charge in with righteous anger and moral certainty. That's how people die. Fight the way Jiwon taught her to fight. By understanding the system, by finding its weak points, by building something that outlasts your enemies. I'm not a gangster. No. But you're their daughter. Both of theirs. You have Jiwon's strategic mind and Hana's moral courage. Combined, that's dangerous. Combined, that's powerful. Combined, that's something that could actually change things. Doctor. Kim handed her a business card. This is a lawyer. She specializes in corruption cases. She worked with Jiwon before he disappeared. She knows everything. If you want to bring down the system, start there. Yuna took the card. Why are you helping me? Because I owe your mother. And because I'm tired. Tired of lying. tired of pretending, tired of watching innocent people suffer while the guilty prosper. I made a choice 20 years ago to stay silent. Maybe it was the right choice then. But maybe it's time to make a different choice. Dr. Kim smiled sadly. Besides, you are going to find the truth eventually. Better you find it with guidance than stumble into it and get killed. Yuna stood to leave, then turned back. Do you regret it? The silence? Dr. Kim thought for a long moment. I regret that I had to choose. That's the real tragedy, isn't it? Not the choices we make, but the fact that we have to make them at all. Yuna left the office feeling like she had aged years in the span of hours. The hallways of Seonghwa Medical Center felt different now. Not a place of healing, but a monument to compromises and lies. Every white wall, every gleaming floor, every state-of-the-art operating room, all of it built on blood and secrets. She went to the hospital's chapel, a small room on the third floor that few people used. She needed silence, needed to think, needed to process everything she had learned. She was still sitting there, staring at nothing, when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Dr. Kang Yuna. The voice was male, older, with an accent that suggested he had lived somewhere else for a long time. You've been asking questions about me. Yuna's heart stopped. Who is this? You know who this is. You've seen my photograph, read my files, heard the stories. A pause. I'm your father. The world tilted. Yuna gripped the pew in front of her. You're supposed to be dead. I'm supposed to be a lot of things. Dead. Guilty. Gone. But reality is more complicated than official records. The voice was sad, tired, but somehow still strong. I've been watching you your whole life, Yuna. Every school play, every medical school exam, every surgery. Always from a distance, always invisible, always making sure you were safe. Why? The word came out broken. Because I'm your father. And fathers protect their children, even when they can't hold them. Even when their very existence puts them in danger. Even when protection means absence. A breath. Shaky and human. I loved your mother more than I've ever loved anything. When she died, part of me died too. The only part that survived was the part that promised to keep you safe. So I did. I became a ghost. Gave up everything. My name, my empire, my life. All of it. Just to make sure you could grow up without inheriting my enemies. Were you there when Mina died? A long silence. Then, yes. Did you kill her? No. But I didn't save her either. I stood there and watched her fall and knew that my presence had caused it. That my affair with your mother had set everything in motion. That my empire had created the circumstances that led to her death. So am I guilty? Legally, no. Morally, yes. Absolutely. I've carried that guilt every day since. The prosecutor, Lee Sang-woo. He killed her. He let her fall. There's a difference. But not much of one. The voice was heavy with old pain. I could have stopped him. Could have grabbed Mina before she went over. Could have done something other than freeze. But I froze. And she died. And I've been paying for that moment of paralysis ever since. Where are you? Close. Always close. But we can't meet. Not yet. Not while there are people who would use you to get to me. Not while Lee Sang-woo's son controls the prosecutor's office. Not while Han Minho sits at the center of the web I built. Not while you're vulnerable. I'm not vulnerable. I'm a doctor. I'm trained to handle pressure. A soft laugh. You're exactly like your mother. Brave to the point of stupidity. Principled to the point of danger. It's what I loved about her. It's what terrifies me about you. The voice turned serious. Listen to me carefully, Yuna. You've uncovered a past that powerful people want to stay buried. Han Minho will try to control you. Lee Jae-won, that's Sang-woo's son, will try to eliminate you. Yuri will try to use you. They all have agendas. They all have plans. And you're a variable they didn't account for. So what do? You make a choice. The same choice your mother made. The same choice I made. You decide whether you're going to fight the system or survive within it. Whether you're going to expose the truth or protect yourself. Whether you're going to honor your mother's wish for you to live freely or honor her legacy by burning down the corruption she died fighting against. A pause. I can't tell you what to choose, but I can tell you this. If you fight, and I'll help you, from the shadows, with resources you'll never see, with protection you'll never know you have. I couldn't save your mother, but I can help save what she believed in. And if I choose to walk away, then I'll respect that. I'll keep watching from a distance. I'll make sure you stay safe, and I'll never contact you again. The voice cracked slightly. But I hope you don't. I hope you fight. Because this city needs what you and your mother represent. Hope. Principle. The belief that systems can be changed by people who care enough to try. I built an empire on violence and corruption. Maybe you can build something better on top of its ruins. How do I contact you? You don't. I'll contact you. When you've made your choice. When you're ready. When the time is right. A breath. I love you, Yuna. What I've loved you every day of your life. I wish I could have told you that in person. Wish I could have been the father you deserved. But wishes don't change reality. And reality is, I'm a ghost. And ghosts can only love from a distance. The line went dead. Yuna sat in the chapel for another hour, staring at her phone, replaying the conversation in her mind. Her father was alive. Her father was watching her. Her father was offering help. But could she trust him? Could she trust anyone in this twisted story where everyone claimed innocence and everyone was guilty? She thought about her mother's journal entry. Choose love. Always choose love. But what did that mean in this context? Love for her parents? Love for the truth? Love for justice? Love for the patients who needed Seonghwa Medical Center to survive? She didn't have answers, but she had something else. She had information, she had connections, and she had the business card Dr. Kim had given her. Yuna pulled out her phone and called the number on the card. Lawyer Hwang Sujin's office. This is Dr. Kang Yuna. I need to speak with Attorney Hwang. Tell her it's about Choi Ji-won. A pause. Please hold. 30 seconds later, a woman's voice came on the line. Sharp, intelligent, careful. Dr. Kang. I've been wondering when you would call. You know who I am? I know exactly who you are. I've been tracking your investigation since the day you found that first file. I was friends with your parents. Both of them. I helped build the legal structure that allowed Seonghwa to exist. And I've been waiting 20 years for the right moment to tear it all down. Attorney Hwang's voice was fierce. Are you the right moment, Dr. Kang? Are you ready to finish what your parents started? I don't know. That's why I'm calling. I need to understand what I'm fighting before I decide whether to fight at all. Smart. Your mother was the same way. Never rushed into battle. Always understood the terrain first. A pause. Come to my office tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll show you everything. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence your father collected before he disappeared. I'll show you the full scope of the corruption. And then you can decide whether you want to be a doctor who saves individual lives or a reformer who tries to save the system. Why now? Why not 5 years ago? Or 10? Because 5 years ago, Lee Jae-won wasn't vulnerable. Because 10 years ago, Han Min-ho was still untouchable. Because right now, at this exact moment, there's a window, a chance, an opportunity. Attorney Hwang's voice dropped. Politics are shifting. New prosecutors are investigating old cases. Media is hungry for corruption stories. And you're the perfect symbol. the daughter of Choi Ji-won and Park Hana, the proof that their love existed, the living embodiment of everything they fought for. You're not just evidence, you're narrative, and narrative is how wars are won. I don't want to be a symbol. Then you shouldn't have started asking questions. But you did. And now you're part of the story whether you like it or not. Attorney Huang's voice softened. Your mother taught me that courage isn't about wanting to fight. It's about fighting anyway when the alternative is worse. Is the alternative worse, Dr. Kang? Is staying silent worse than the risk of speaking up? Yuna thought about the patients she treated every day. Thought about the families who couldn't afford care. Thought about the systems that decided who lived and who died based on money and connections and power. Thought about her mother's dying wish, build something good. Yes, she said finally, the alternative is worse. Then I'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. And Dr. Kang, be careful, you're not the only one who knows you're asking questions. There are people who have spent decades building their lives on the graves of your parents. They won't let you dig those graves up without a fight. The call ended. Yuna sat in the chapel, feeling the weight of a decision she hadn't fully made yet but knew was inevitable. She was going to fight. Not because she wanted to, not because she was brave, but because the alternative, living a life built on her mother's silence and her father's sacrifice, was a kind of death all its own. She stood up and walked out of the chapel. As she passed through the hospital's corridors, she saw them differently now. Not as a place of healing, but as a battlefield. Every doctor, every nurse, every administrator, all of them pawns in a game that had been playing for decades. All of them complicit or victimized, or both. She took the elevator to the administrative floor, walked past the receptionist without stopping, pushed open Han Minho's office door without knocking. He was sitting at his desk, reading something on his computer. He looked up, unsurprised. Dr. Kang, I was expecting you. You knew this would happen. You knew I'd find out. I hoped you wouldn't. But yes, I knew it was possible. Han Minho gestured to a chair. Sit. Let's talk like adults. I don't want to sit. I want answers. Real ones. Not the sanitized version you gave me before. Han Minho leaned back in his chair. What do you want to know? I want to know why you've been lying to me my entire life. Why you placed me with a stranger and called him my father. Why you've been watching me like I'm some kind of asset to be managed. Why you covered up a murder and called it suicide. Why you took control of an empire built on blood and pretended it was legitimate. Yuna's voice was shaking with anger. I want to know whose side you're on, because everyone tells a different story, and you're the only one who was there for all of it. Whose side am I on? Han Minho smiled sadly. I'm on the side of survival, Dr. Kang. The side that says institutions matter more than individuals, that keeping the system functioning is more important than pursuing abstract justice, that protecting the living is more valuable than avenging the dead. That's the coward's answer. Perhaps. Or perhaps it's the answer of someone who's seen what happens when systems collapse, when powerful men fall and take entire industries with them, when pursuing justice creates more victims than it saves. Han Minho stood up and walked to the window. Your father wanted to burn it all down, start fresh, build something pure. Your mother wanted the same thing. Do you know what would have happened if they had succeeded? The corrupt would have been punished. The corrupt would have been replaced by others just as corrupt, but in the process, hospitals would have closed. Patients would have died. Families would have lost their livelihoods. Innocent people would have paid the price for the sins of the guilty. He turned back to her. I'm not defending what we built. I'm explaining why I chose to preserve it. Because imperfect systems that function are better than perfect systems that don't exist. You sound like you've rehearsed that speech. I've been giving variations of it for 20 years. to prosecutors who got too curious, to journalists who dug too deep, to myself, in the mirror, every morning when I wonder if I'm a hero or a villain. Han Minho returned to his desk. Here's the truth, Dr. Kang. I loved your parents. Both of them. Jiwon was my friend. Hana was the best person I ever knew. When they fell in love, I was happy for them. When their love started destroying everything around them, and I was terrified. And when they forced me to choose between preserving what they built and protecting what they loved, I chose preservation. You chose wrong. Maybe, or maybe I chose the only option that kept you alive, because make no mistake, if I hadn't taken control, if I hadn't made deals with Lee Sang-woo, if I hadn't convinced everyone that the past could stay buried, you would have been killed. Not immediately, but eventually, because you represent a threat, a living reminder of secrets people want forgotten, a potential heir to an empire people have spent decades dividing among themselves. Yuna felt cold. You're saying my life has been a negotiation. Your life has been a masterpiece of political maneuvering. Every choice I made, every lie I told, every compromise I accepted, all of it was to create a space where you could grow up safe, where you could become a doctor, where you could live the life your mother wanted for you. Han Minho's eyes were sincere. I promised her I would protect you. I've kept that promise. But now you're making it very difficult. Because I'm asking questions. Because you're not content with the life we carved out for you. You want truth, justice, revenge. I understand that. But understand this. The moment you start fighting, the protection ends. The deals I've made, the agreements I've maintained, they only hold if you stay quiet, if you remain ignorant. The second you become a threat, you become a target. Then I'm already a target, because I'm not staying quiet. Han Minho studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I was afraid you'd say that. You're more like them than I hoped. More principled. More brave. More foolish. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick folder. Then you should have this. Everything I've been keeping from you. Every document, every photograph, every piece of evidence your father collected. I've been holding on to it as insurance, as leverage, as a way to protect myself if the political wind shifted. But, if you're going to fight, you should fight with complete information. He slid the folder across the desk. Yuna opened it. Inside were documents that made Dr. Kim's revelations look like a prologue. Financial records showing that Lee Sang-woo had been taking bribes from organized crime families for 30 years. Recordings of conversations between prosecutors and criminals, photographs of judges receiving payments. See email exchanges discussing how to manipulate trials, hide evidence, and protect the guilty. And at the center of it all, a network diagram. A map of Seoul's power structure showing how everyone was connected. How money flowed from criminal enterprises through legitimate businesses into political campaigns. How favors were traded, alliances maintained, enemies eliminated. It was comprehensive, damning, and completely unimpeachable. This would destroy everyone, Yuna whispered. Everyone except you and me, because I'm already positioned as the reformer. The man who's been quietly dismantling the corruption from the inside. The hero who was waiting for the right moment to expose everything. Han Minho's smile was bitter. I'm not a good man, Dr. Kang, but I'm a smart one. And I'm smart enough to know that the best way to survive a revolution is to lead it. So this is your insurance policy. This is our insurance policy. If you're going to fight, I'll help you. Not because I'm noble, but because I'm practical. The old order is dying. Lee Jae-won is ambitious but stupid. Yuri is weakening. The prosecutors are getting bold. The media is hungry. And you're the perfect catalyst. The sympathetic protagonist. The wronged daughter. The symbol of justice. He leaned forward. But you need to understand something. This fight will destroy you as much as it destroys them. You'll lose your privacy, your peace, your ability to practice medicine quietly. You'll become famous or infamous. You'll make powerful enemies, and you may not survive. I know. Do you? And because your mother thought she could fight and survive, she was wrong. Jiwon thought he could protect her and win. He was wrong. I'm the only one who survived, and I survived by compromising everything I believed in. Han Minho's voice was urgent. I'm giving you one last chance to walk away. Take the folder, burn it, forget everything. Go back to being a doctor. Live a quiet life. It's what your mother wanted for you. My mother also wanted to change the system. And it killed her. Maybe. Or maybe she was just the first wave. Maybe I'm the second. Yuna picked up the folder. I'm going to fight. With your help, or without it. But I'd prefer with it. Because you're right. You're smart. And I'm going to need smart allies if I want to survive this. Han Minho stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. A genuine laugh. Full of surprise and resignation. You know what? You might actually win. You've got Juwon's strategic mind, Hana's moral courage, and none of their weaknesses. You're not in love with anyone who can be used against you. You're not trapped by existing power structures. You're not compromised by past crimes. You're clean, angry, and motivated. That's a dangerous combination. So you'll help? I'll help. Not because I believe you'll succeed, but because I've spent 20 years building an exit strategy and you're it. If this goes well, I'm the heroic whistleblower. If it goes badly, I'm the tragic victim who tried to do the right thing. He stood up and extended his hand. Partners? Yuna shook his hand, feeling like she was making a deal with the devil. But then again, her father had been the devil. Anne and her mother had loved him anyway. Maybe moral compromises were hereditary. Partners, she agreed, but on one condition. What's that? No more lies, no more secrets, no more manipulation. If we're doing this, we're doing it honestly. Or as honestly as possible given the circumstances. Han Minho smiled. You're asking for the impossible. But I'll try. That's more than I've given anyone else. Yuna left his office feeling like she had crossed a line she could never uncross. She had chosen to fight, had allied herself with a man she didn't fully trust, had committed to destroying a system that her parents had died trying to change. But as she walked through the hospital, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not peace. She would never have peace again. But purpose, direction, in the sense that she was finally doing what she was meant to do. She pulled out her phone and texted Attorney Huang. I'm in. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'm ready to finish what they started. The response came immediately. Good. Because they've been waiting. And war is patient. That night, Yuna couldn't sleep. She lay in her apartment staring at the ceiling, thinking about her parents, about the choices they had made, about the love that had destroyed them. She pulled out the photographs, both of them. The one showing her parents happy and pregnant, unaware of the disaster coming, and the one showing her father alone on a beach, pretending to be free. She studied his face in the second photo, looked for traces of herself in his features, found them in the angle of her jaw, the shape of her eyes, the stubborn set of her mouth. She was his daughter, for better or worse. And that meant something. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too. But be careful. The people you're about to fight don't lose gracefully. Watch your back. Trust no one completely. And remember, I'm always watching. Always protecting. Always one step behind you in the shadows. You're not alone in this, even when you feel alone. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'll see you when it's over. One way or another. Yuna typed back, I have so many questions. The response came after a long pause. I know, and I'll answer them. Someday. When you're safe. When this is over. When I can finally stop being a ghost and become your father. Until then, just know this. Everything I did for love. For your mother. For you. And for the possibility of something better. That has to be enough. For now. Yuna stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed, It's enough. For now. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, the war would begin. Tomorrow, she would meet with Attorney Huang and learn the full scope of what she was fighting. Tomorrow, she would start the process of destroying the empire her father built and her mother died protecting. But tonight, for just a few more hours, she could be just Yuna, just a daughter, just a person who had learned the truth and was still trying to figure out what it meant. Sleep came eventually, fitful and full of dreams. In the dreams, she saw her mother's face, heard her father's voice, stood in a hospital that was simultaneously a palace and a prison, watched as the people she was about to betray looked at her with expressions that mixed fear and respect, and something like pride. In the dreams, she understood that there were no heroes in this story, no villains, just people making impossible choices and living with impossible consequences. Just humans being human, flawed, desperate, loving, cruel, noble, and base, all at once. In the dreams, she saw the ending. But when she woke up, she couldn't remember what it was. Just the feeling of it, the weight of it, the inevitability of it. She got up, showered, dressed in her armor of professionalism. She ate breakfast mechanically. She reviewed the documents Han Minho had given her. She prepared herself for war the way surgeons prepare for surgery, with focus, precision, and the acceptance that some outcomes can't be controlled. At 9:45, she left her apartment. The morning was cold but clear, the kind of weather that promised clarity and delivered only questions. She took a taxi to Attorney Huang's office. As the car wound through Seoul's streets, she watched the city pass by, saw the people going about their lives, unaware that a war was about to be waged for their sake, unaware that the daughter of a ghost and a martyr was about to try to change everything. The taxi stopped at a nondescript building in Gangnam. Yuna paid, stepped out, and looked up at the structure. It was old by Seoul standards, 20 years maybe, built right around the time her parents were falling in love, built on the foundation of the same corruption she was about to expose. She went inside, took the elevator to the 7th floor. Eve found Attorney Huang's office at the end of a quiet hallway. She knocked. Come in, a voice called. Yuna opened the door and stepped into a room that was equal parts law office and war room. One wall was covered with documents, photographs, and red string connecting them all in a web of corruption. Another wall held legal texts and case files. A third wall was nothing but windows, looking out over Seoul like a general surveying a battlefield. Attorney Huang stood at the window. She was in her 50s, dressed in a sharp suit, with short hair and eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. She turned when Yuna entered. Dr. Kang, welcome. Are you ready to see what your parents died fighting? I think so. Good. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once you start down this path, there's no turning back. Attorney Huang walked to the wall of documents. This is 20 years of research, 20 years of collecting evidence, 20 years of waiting for the right moment to strike. Your parents started this work. I've been continuing it. And now, you're going to finish it. She pulled down a photograph. It showed a young Choi Ji-won, maybe 30, standing with a group of men in suits. Your father in 1998, building his empire, collecting allies, creating a system that would make him untouchable. She pulled down another photo. Your mother in 2003, working in the hospital, believing she could save lives and change systems, not yet knowing that systems don't change, they just shift. More photos, more documents. A timeline of corruption stretching back decades. Names of prosecutors, judges, politicians. All connected, all complicit, all protected by a system that punished whistleblowers and rewarded silence. This is what you're fighting, Attorney Huang said. Not individuals, not even an organization, a culture, a way of thinking that says power protects itself, that says the strong survive and the weak are crushed, that says justice is a luxury we can't afford. How do we fight it? The same way your parents tried to, with evidence, with truth, with narrative. We expose it all. We show the public exactly who their leaders are. We make it impossible to look away. We create outrage. We force action. Attorney Huang pulled out a thick binder. This is our case against Lee Jae-won, the current chief prosecutor, against 12 judges, against 8 politicians, against the entire corrupt structure. Min we file next week. The media will have the story the same day. By the end of the month, the whole country will know. And then chaos. Arrests, trials, political upheaval. Some people will go to prison. Some will flee the country. Some will fight back with everything they have. And you'll be at the center of it all. The face of the movement. The symbol of change. The daughter who wouldn't let her parents die in vain. Yuna looked at the wall of evidence. Felt the weight of it. The responsibility of it. The danger of it. What if we lose? Then we die. Or worse, we live and watch as everything goes back to the way it was. As the corruption continues. As the powerful remain powerful and the weak remain weak. As your parents' sacrifice means nothing. Attorney Huang met her eyes. But we won't lose. And because we have something they don't. What's that? The truth. And eventually, inevitably, the truth wins. Not because it's stronger, but because lies are exhausting. Because corruption eats itself. Because systems built on violence eventually collapse. Attorney Huang smiled. Your mother believed that. Your father believed that, even though he pretended he didn't. And I believe it. The question is, do you? Yuna thought about the patients she had treated, the families she had helped, the lives she had saved. She thought about her mother, bleeding out on an operating table, making someone promise to protect her daughter. She thought about her father, disappearing into shadows, sacrificing everything for love. She thought about the choice her mother had written about. Choose love. And she realized that fighting wasn't the opposite of love. Sometimes, fighting was love. Fighting for a better system was loving the people trapped in a broken one. Fighting for justice was loving the victims of injustice. Fighting for truth was loving a world where truth mattered. I believe it, Yuna said. I'm ready. Let's finish what they started. Attorney Huang extended her hand. Then let's begin. They shook hands, and in that moment, Yuna felt the past and present and future collapse into a single point. Felt her mother's courage flowing through her. Felt her father's strategic mind sharpening her own. Felt the weight of their legacy and the possibility of their redemption. She was ready for war. But as she stood there, staring at the wall of evidence, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something. Some piece of the puzzle that hadn't been revealed yet. Some truth that everyone had forgotten to mention. She pulled out the photograph from the archive, the one showing her parents happy and pregnant, with the blurred figure in the background holding a syringe. Who is this? She asked Attorney Huang, pointing to the blurred figure. Attorney Huang leaned in, studied the photo. Her face went pale. Oh God. What? I thought that file was destroyed. I thought Han Minho had buried it. Attorney Huang's hands were shaking. This changes everything. Tell me. That's not just Dr. Kim Sora. Look at the syringe. Look at the angle. Look at what's happening in this photo. Attorney Huang pulled out a magnifying glass, examined the image more closely. Your mother wasn't just pregnant in this photo. She was being treated. For something. By someone she trusted. What are you saying? I'm saying that your mother didn't die from childbirth complications. She died from something that was done to her during childbirth. Something that was made to look natural, but wasn't. Attorney Huang looked up, her eyes wide with horror. Your mother was murdered. The room spun. Yuna grabbed the desk to steady herself. No, that's not. Han Minho said it was hemorrhaging. He said. He lied. Or he didn't know. Or he was complicit. Attorney Huang was pulling out more files now, frantically searching. I saw the autopsy report years ago. Hana died from an embolism, air in her bloodstream. It can happen naturally during complicated births. But she found what she was looking for. A medical file, 20 years old. But the air bubble was introduced through an IV, deliberately, by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Who? That's what we need to find out. Because if your mother was murdered, if her death wasn't an accident, then everything we thought we knew about this story is wrong. The deals, the compromises, the settlements, all of it was based on the assumption that Hana died naturally. But if she was killed, then someone wanted her silenced. Someone feared what she knew. Someone who's still out there, still powerful, still protected. Yuna felt like she was falling, like the ground beneath her had opened up, and she was plummeting into an abyss. Her mother, murdered. Not a tragedy of biology, but a crime. A choice someone made. A life someone took. Who was in the delivery room? Yuna asked, her voice hollow. Han Minho, Dr. Kim Sora, 2 nurses whose names I can find. And Attorney Huang checked her notes. And someone from the hospital's board. Someone who insisted on being present. Someone who wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. Who? Attorney Huang looked up from her notes. Her face was grim. Yuri? Choi Ji-won's wife? Your father's wife? The woman who had every reason to want your mother dead. The world went white. Static filled Yuna's ears. She heard her own voice from very far away saying, I need to talk to her. I need to hear her say it. Yuna, wait. But she was already moving. Already leaving the office. Already pulling out her phone to search for Yuri's address. Already committing herself to a confrontation that might end with answers or might end with her own death. Because if her mother had been murdered, then everything changed. The guilt, the compromises, and the silence. All of it was built on a false foundation, and Yuna was going to tear that foundation down, even if it meant destroying herself in the process. She took a taxi across the city. Yuri lived in Gangnam, in one of those expensive high-rises that looked like it belonged in Dubai. The kind of place where money and power lived in sterile elegance, removed from the mess of ordinary life. Yuna walked into the lobby. The security guard started to stop her, but something in her face made him pause. Maybe he saw the determination. Maybe he saw the grief. Maybe he just recognized that she was someone who wouldn't be stopped. She took the elevator to the penthouse, knocked on the door with more force than necessary. The door opened. A woman stood there, late 50s, elegant, and with the kind of beauty that had been carefully maintained through money and discipline. She looked at Yuna with recognition and something like resignation. I've been expecting you, Yuri said. Come in. Let's talk about your mother. Yuna stepped inside. The apartment was museum perfect. White furniture, modern art, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. It was the kind of space that looked like no one actually lived there, just existed. Yuri walked to a sitting area and gestured for Yuna to sit. Yuna remained standing. Did you kill her? Yuna asked. No preamble, no politeness, just the question that mattered. Yuri smiled sadly. Is that what you think? That I murdered Park Hana because she was sleeping with my husband? You were in the delivery room. You had motive. You had opportunity. You had reason to want her dead. I had reason to want a lot of things. That doesn't mean I did them. Yuri poured herself tea from a service that probably cost more than Yuna's car. Sit down, Dr. Kang. Let me tell you a story. Not the story everyone thinks happened, but the one that actually did. Yuna sat. Not because she trusted Yuri, but because she needed to hear this, needed to know. I didn't love Jiwon, Yuri began. I want to be clear about that. Our marriage was a business arrangement. My father needed protection from the criminal syndicates he was pretending to prosecute. Jiwon needed legitimacy and political access. We gave each other what we needed. It was functional, it was practical, it was empty. So you didn't care about the affair? I cared that it made me look weak. I made me look like I couldn't control my own husband, made me look like a fool. Yuri's voice was bitter. But did I care that Jiwon loved someone else? No, because I never wanted his love. I wanted his power, his protection, his name. And I had all of those things. Then why were you in the delivery room? Because your mother asked me to be there. Yuri met Yuna's eyes. You didn't know that, did you? Didn't know that in those final weeks, when Jiwon was gone and Hana was terrified and alone, she reached out to me, reached out to the wife of the man she loved, asked for help. Yuna felt her throat tighten. Why would she do that? Because she was desperate, because she knew she was in danger, because she thought that if anything happened to her, I would protect her child, protect you. Yuri's voice softened. She came to my apartment, 8 months pregnant, exhausted, terrified. She said, I know you hate me. I would hate me too. But please, if something happens, make sure my daughter is safe. Make sure she has a chance at a normal life. I asked her why she thought something would happen. She said, because I know things that powerful people want forgotten, and people who know too much don't survive. What did she know? She knew who really killed my sister. She knew about my father's corruption. She knew about the deals, the bribes, the bodies buried in metaphorical and literal ways. She knew everything. Yuri set down her teacup. And she was going to expose it all. After you were born, after she recovered, she was going to go public. With documents, recordings, testimony. And she was going to burn down the entire system. So someone stopped her. Someone stopped her. Yuri's face was unreadable. But it wasn't me. I was in the delivery room because I promised her I would be, because despite everything, I respected her. She loved Jiwon in a way I never could. She believed in something I had stopped believing in. That systems could change, that people could be better, that sacrifice meant something. Then who killed her? I don't know. I've spent 20 years trying to figure that out. Yuri stood and walked to the window. There were 6 people in that delivery room. Han Minho, who performed the C-section, Dr. Kim Sora, who assisted, 2 nurses, whose names I don't remember, me, and my father. Lee Sang-woo insisted on being there, said he wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. I thought he was just being controlling, but now, looking back, I think he was there to make sure Hana didn't survive. Your father murdered my mother? My father is capable of anything, but I don't have proof. Just suspicions. Just the knowledge that Hana was fine until the final moments, that the hemorrhaging started suddenly and catastrophically, that despite Han Minho's skill, despite every intervention, she died within minutes. It happened too fast, too cleanly, too conveniently. Why didn't you speak up? Because I had no proof. Because accusing my father of murder would have destroyed me. because I was a coward. Yuri turned back to Yuna. I made a choice. The same choice everyone makes. I chose survival over truth. I chose silence over justice. And I've lived with that choice every day since. You're telling me everyone knew my mother was murdered and no one did anything? I'm telling you that everyone suspected and no one could prove it. There's a difference. Suspicion without proof is just paranoia, and paranoia is easy to dismiss. Yuri walked back to the sitting area. After Hana died, Han Minho performed the autopsy himself, found embolism as the cause of death. Medical accident, happens sometimes in complicated births. Case closed. I asked to see the full report. He refused, said it was too traumatic, too personal. I pressed. He suggested that pushing further would be bad for everyone involved, including you. He was protecting the killer. Or he genuinely didn't know. Or he suspected but couldn't prove it. Or he was complicit. Take your pick. Everyone has their version of events. Everyone has their justification. Yuri's voice was weary. That's the real tragedy of this story, Dr. Kang. Not that people did terrible things, but that everyone has reasonable explanations for why they had to do them. Your father built a criminal empire to protect his mother. My father became corrupt to provide for his family. Han Minho covered up crimes to preserve institutions. I stayed silent to survive. We all have our reasons. We all think we're the heroes of our own stories. But you're not. No, we're not. We're just people who made terrible choices and convinced ourselves they were necessary. Yuri met Yuna's eyes. But you have a choice now. You can pursue this, can dig deeper, can try to prove what happened to your mother, can potentially destroy everyone involved, including yourself. Or you can let it go, can accept that some truths can't be proven, can live the life your mother wanted for you, can choose peace over justice. That's not a real choice. It's the only choice any of us ever have. We can fight systems that are stronger than us and probably lose, or we can survive within those systems and definitely live. Yuri poured more tea. Your mother chose to fight. It killed her. Your father chose to fight. It destroyed him. I chose to survive. I'm still here. Which choice is better? Which choice is right? I don't know anymore. Yuna stood. I know. Fighting is better, even if it kills me, even if I lose, even if everything I build gets torn down, because at least I'll know I tried. At least I'll know I didn't let them win. Then you're exactly like your mother. And you'll probably end up exactly like her too. Yuri's smile was sad. But I hope you don't. I really do. Because the world needs people who believe that fighting matters, even if it doesn't. Yuna walked to the door, stopped, turned back. If you loved her at all, if you respected her at all, help me. Tell me everything you know about what happened in that delivery room. Every detail, every person, every moment. Yuri was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. Okay. Not because I think it will change anything, but because she deserves to have someone fight for her. Even 20 years too late. She pulled out a notebook, started writing. Names, times, details. Every memory she had of that day. Every conversation, every observation, every suspicion. She filled 5 pages with elegant script, then tore them out and handed them to Yuna. This is everything I remember. Take it. Use it however you want. But understand, this won't bring your mother back. Won't undo what was done. Won't make the past different. It will just help you understand exactly how broken everything really is. That's enough. Yuna left the apartment, descended in the elevator, walked out into Seoul's afternoon. The city continued around her, indifferent to her grief, her rage, her determination. Millions of people living their lives, unaware that a war was being waged for their sake. She pulled out her phone. called Attorney Huang. It was murder. I have witness testimony. We need to reopen the case. Yuna, wait. You need to think about this. Accusing Lee Sang-woo of murdering your mother, that's beyond dangerous. That's suicide. Then it's suicide. But I'm doing it anyway. Are you with me? A long pause. Then, I'm with you. God help us both. But I'm with you. Yuna hung up, called Han Minho. We need to talk. About the delivery room, about what really happened, about who was there and what they did. Han Minho's voice was careful. I told you everything I know. You told me everything you wanted me to know. There's a difference. I'm coming to your office. Now. And you're going to tell me the truth, or I'm going to assume you're complicit. She hung up before he could respond. Took another taxi back to Seonghwa Medical Center. Walked through the gleaming halls with new eyes. This wasn't a hospital. It was a crime scene. Every room, every corridor, every operating theater, all of it built on lies and blood and the systematic silencing of truth. She reached Han Minho's office. Pushed open the door without knocking. He was standing at the window looking out over Seoul. He turned when she entered. I've been waiting for this conversation for 20 years, he said quietly. Waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Waiting for someone brave enough to demand real answers. Then give them to me. Han Minho walked to his desk, unlocked a drawer, pulled out a file so old the edges had yellowed. This is the real autopsy report, he said. The one I performed. The one I never submitted to the official records. The one that shows exactly what killed your mother. He handed it to Yuna. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was medical documentation that told a story of murder, evidence of an air embolism introduced through an IV. Evidence that it happened not during the C-section, but after, during recovery, when Hana was surrounded by people she trusted. Evidence that someone had injected air directly into her bloodstream, causing cardiac arrest, death within minutes. And attached to the report was a photograph, a surveillance image from the delivery room's security camera. Grainy, poor quality, but clear enough to see. It showed a figure in scrubs leaning over Hana's bed. Their hand on the IV line, a syringe barely visible, and their face, turned slightly toward the camera. Lee Sang-woo, the prosecutor, the powerful man, the father who had killed his own daughter and then killed the woman who threatened to expose him. Yuna looked up at Han Minho. You knew. You knew this whole time. I knew. And I stayed silent. Because Lee Sang-woo made it clear that if I spoke up, I would die. You would die. Everyone connected to this would die. He offered me a deal. Keep quiet, keep the hospital running, keep you hidden, and he would leave us all alone. I took the deal. Han Minho's face was full of old pain. I've regretted it every day since, but I've also kept you alive every day since. So was I wrong? Was I right? I genuinely don't know. Why are you showing me this now? Because Lee Sang-woo is dead. He died 6 months ago. Heart attack? Natural causes. Which means the deal died with him. Which means the only person left protecting his legacy is his son, Lee Jae-won. And Lee Jae-won is weak, arrogant, vulnerable. Han Minho pushed the file across the desk. Which means now, finally, after 20 years, we can tell the truth. We can bring him down. We can get justice for your mother. If you're brave enough to try. Yuna took the file, felt its weight, felt the weight of 20 years of silence, 20 years of injustice, 20 years of a murdered woman being forgotten while her killer prospered. I'm brave enough, she said. Are you? Han Minho smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, the smile looked genuine. I'm done being a coward. Let's burn it all down. They spent the next hour planning. Attorney Huang joined them. Together, they built a case that was airtight, comprehensive, damning. They had evidence of Lee Sang-woo's murder of Park Han-na, evidence of his corruption, evidence of decades of crimes covered up by a system he controlled. More importantly, they had evidence linking Lee Jae-won to his father's crimes, showing that the son had inherited not just the father's position, but his methods, that the corruption continued. One, that the system remained broken. "We file next week," Attorney Huang said. "We go public the same day. We create a media firestorm before they can respond. We make it impossible to ignore." "And then?" Yuna asked. "And then war. Real war. Not metaphorical. They'll fight back with everything they have. Money, influence, threats, violence. They'll try to discredit us. They'll dig into our pasts. They'll make us look crazy, vengeful, unreliable." Attorney Huang's face was grim. "We need to be ready for that. Need to be prepared to lose everything. Jobs, reputations, possibly lives." "I'm ready. Are you?" Han Minho looked at her seriously. "Because once this starts, there's no stopping it. No going back. No second chances. You'll be famous in the worst possible way. You'll be a target. You'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder." "My mother spent her whole life looking over her shoulder. At least I'll be looking back at people who deserve it." They finalized the plan, set the date, made their preparations. As Yuna left the office, Han Minho called after her. "Yuna, your father would be proud. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me, but it's true. He would be so proud." Yuna paused at the door. "Is he watching? Right now?" "Always. He's always watching." "Then tell him." She stopped, gathered her thoughts. "Tell him I understand now. Why he left. Why he stayed away. Why he became a ghost. And tell him that when this is over, I want to meet him. I want to hear his voice. I want to know him. Even if it's dangerous. Even if it puts me at risk. Because he's my father. And I'm done living in fear." Han Minho nodded slowly. "I'll tell him." Yuna left the hospital and went home. But home didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a waiting room. A place where she existed between one version of herself and another. She spent the evening reading through all the documents again, organizing the evidence, building the narrative that would destroy Lee Jae-won and everyone connected to him. It was meticulous work, satisfying work, the kind of work that made sense in a world that rarely did. At midnight, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Are you sure?" Her father's voice. Quiet, careful, full of concern. "Are you absolutely sure this is what you want?" "Yes." "You know what will happen. You know the cost." "I know. And I'm willing to pay it. For Mom. For you. For everyone who's been silenced. A long silence. Then, I can't protect you from this. If you do this, you're exposed. Vulnerable. I can watch from a distance, but I can't intervene without revealing myself. And if I reveal myself, we're both dead." "I know." "And you're still going to do it?" "Yes." Another silence, longer this time. Then, in a voice that cracked with emotion, "You're just like her. God, you're exactly like her. Brave and stubborn and convinced that truth matters more than survival." A shaky breath. "I love you. I've loved you every day of your life. And I'm terrified that I'm about to lose you the same way I lost her." "You won't lose me. I'm stronger than you think. Stronger than Mom was. Because I have both of you in me. Your strategic mind and her moral courage. And that's a powerful combination. It's a lethal combination. That's what worries me." "Then worry. But don't try to stop me. Because I'm doing this. With your blessing or without it." A pause. Then quietly, "You have my blessing. And my help. Whatever you need. Whenever you need it. I can't stand beside you, but I'll stand behind you. always. That's all I need. One more thing. When this is over, when you've won or lost, survived or fallen, I want to meet you, face to face, father and daughter. No more hiding, no more shadows. Can we do that? Yuna felt tears burning her eyes. Yes. When this is over, we'll meet. I promise. Then fight well, daughter. Fight smart. Fight like everything depends on it, because it does. The line went dead. Yuna sat in the darkness of her apartment, holding her phone, feeling the weight of a promise she intended to keep. She would fight. She would win. And then, finally, she would meet the father she had never known. But first, there was work to do. The week passed in preparation. Attorney Huang filed the case. The media received their briefing packets. Everything was set. On the morning of the public announcement, Yuna stood in front of a room full of reporters. Cameras everywhere. Questions shouted from all directions. And in the back of the room, standing in the shadows, she thought she saw someone familiar. A tall man in an expensive suit. Watching her with pride and fear and love. Her father. Finally close enough to see. She smiled at him. He smiled back. Then she turned to the cameras and began. My name is Dr. Kang Yuna. 20 years ago, my mother, Dr. Park Hana, I was murdered in the delivery room of Seonghwa Medical Center. The man who killed her was Lee Sang-woo, then the chief prosecutor of Seoul. He killed her because she was going to expose his corruption. He killed her to protect himself. He killed her, and everyone stayed silent. The room erupted. Questions, shouting, camera flashes. But Yuna kept talking, her voice steady and strong. Today, I'm breaking that silence. Today, I'm telling the truth. Today, I'm demanding justice. Not just for my mother, but for everyone who's been silenced, everyone who's been victimized by a system that protects the powerful and punishes the honest. She presented the evidence, the autopsy report, the surveillance footage, the financial records showing decades of corruption, the connections between prosecutors and criminals, the whole rotten system, exposed in its complete ugliness. I know that speaking up puts me at risk. I know that powerful people want me silent. But I'm done being silent. I'm done living in fear. I'm done accepting that this is just how things are. She looked directly into the cameras. My mother died fighting for a better system. My father disappeared trying to protect me. Now it's my turn, and I'm not stopping until things change. The press conference ended. The story broke. Within hours, it was everywhere. Television, internet, newspapers. The nation couldn't look away. Yuna became exactly what Attorney Huang predicted. Famous in the worst possible way. Her face on every screen. Her story dissected by everyone. Some called her a hero. Some called her a liar. Some called her a pawn. But everyone called her something. Everyone had an opinion. And in the shadows, watching it all unfold, was Choi Ji-won, the ghost, the father, the man who had built an empire and lost everything. Watching his daughter do what he and her mother could not. Change the system by breaking it. 3 days after the press conference, there was a knock on Yuna's door. She opened it cautiously, expecting reporters or threats or worse. Instead, she found a letter. No return address. Just her name in elegant script. She opened it. Inside was a single sentence in handwriting she had seen in her mother's journals. Her father's handwriting. Meet me where it all began. Tomorrow, midnight. Come alone. It's time. Yuna read the note 3 times. Then she burned it, just like the spies did in movies. She didn't know where it all began meant, but somehow she knew she would figure it out. She thought back through everything she had learned. The first meeting between her parents, the ER visit, the hospital where it all started, Seonghwa Medical Center. the emergency room, where Choi Ji-won had come with a fake car accident just to meet Park Hana. Tomorrow, midnight. Yuna knew it was probably a trap, knew that everything in her life so far suggested that trusting anonymous notes was a terrible idea. But she also knew that she was going, because after 20 years of absence, her father was finally ready to step out of the shadows, and she wasn't about to miss that. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. But for now, in this moment, there was only anticipation. Only the question of what would happen when a daughter finally met the father she had never known, when a ghost became real. When the past and present collided in a hospital emergency room at midnight, Yuna smiled. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring. No idea if she would survive the war she had started. No idea if justice would be served, or if the system would simply crush her the way it had crushed everyone who came before. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was her parents' daughter. And that meant something. That meant everything. Tomorrow, at midnight, in the place where it all began, she would learn exactly what it meant, and the world would watch, and the story would continue, and nothing would ever be the same again. But for tonight, there was only this: a daughter who had learned the truth, a father who waited in shadows, and a question that would be answered soon, very soon.